Without further ado, please welcome all the way from Palm City, Florida, Ed Daccarett.
Thank you, Brad. I want to welcome you here, and I bring you warm greetings from Florida. Privileged to be here, and I so thank you for taking time to be here this afternoon. I am so honored to be here, and I want to say it's no accident that you're here. You know, God had ordained long before you and I were conceived that you would be here, that I would be here, that we would be talking, we would be sharing. So again, I welcome you here. One of the Bible passages that has always really impressed me, and this is one that says, before I formed you, see, of course this is God in creation, but before I formed you in the womb, listen to the word God shows, I knew, past tense, I knew you before I created you. I mean, it's really just fascinating that he uses this word. And so God has a plan, and God has a purpose for each and every one of us here, you know. And there's a famous gentleman that made a statement that the greatest tragedy, the greatest, not one of many, the greatest tragedy is not to be a saint. And does anyone here know who said that?
Archbishop Sheen.
I would think that too. Anyone else? Okay, so I want you to ponder this thought, because it was not who I thought also, but I'm going to let you in at the end of. I want you to notice, and so I shared here a number of people that you'd agree are modern day saints. Mother Teresa, who of course is a saint. Archbishop Sheen, who is in the process right now. She will certainly become. Jack was talking about being bold and being courageous. This lady here takes the cake. We can tell you stories, but in the interest of time, I won't. St. John. Nope. Let me. Yes. And then St. John Paul. He was just made a saint. I believe it was last year. So each one of us have the potential. I mean, why not? Okay. And God will not limit you and I. Okay. The government cannot limit you and I. It's really, and so the only person that can limit us being a saint is us. Okay, and let us not do that. And so, what are these? What do these have that is different than you and I? They are ordinary people. Mother Angelica, you listen to her lifestyle. I mean, she came from, talk about a dysfunctional family. Talk about her life. Talk about St. John Paul grew up in Krakow. I mean, he was actually hit by the army, the communist army. He was walking the street, and he was left for dead on the sidewalk. And so, and here he is, a modern-day saint, served 25 years as a pope. So what is holding you and I back? But us, okay? I was born in Jamaica, as Jack said, in this small little, tiny little place there called Kingston. And yeah, so, and then and there are my parents and my family. That's me off to the left here. That's not a flower, it's just a little glitch in the photograph. But anyway, from a really non-active family, very passive family. At the time, there was no television stations in Jamaica. There was only one radio station. There were no battles to fight. So it was a really passive, inactive family. So next thing I knew was I was taking on a battle for a water cooler on my high school campus. I have no idea. Here's my high school campus. I have absolutely no idea what possessed me other than the fact that God was working behind the scenes. We talk about divine providence. Archbishop Sheen says divine providence is divine invasion of the soul. Think about that. Divine invasion of the soul. So when the soul is taken over, I mean, you cannot. So I took on this challenge. I have no idea why I did, to get a water cooler on my campus. But little did I know that God was working behind the scene. My career was the airline industry, which I rather enjoyed. There was BWE, that's not named after your airport, but British West Indies Airport. In our days, we used to joke and say it used to have a that says, "But will it arrive?" Because it was always late. And then we also used to say Britain's worst investment abroad. So anyway, yeah. So I rather enjoyed the industry, but again, God was stirring my soul. And so my next battle was Red Stripe Beer, Jamaica's famous Red Stripe Beer. And what happened was they had a calendar of a tourist woman bathing naked outside in the outdoors while a bunch of men were playing dominoes. So I wrote to the bottlers of Red Stripe Beer and I said nudity was not necessary. Well, they wrote me back a response and said, you know, in the age of enlightenment, blah, 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 blah. So in my days with the travel industry, I had met a number of media people. So I forwarded the response to a female reporter, hoping to start a firestorm, and it did. So they have not since then done anything in nudity. I then moved to Miami, migrated to Miami legally, so I was not a married thing there, and married this lovely lady, my dear wife, Lori. And then one weekend, oh, by the way, you notice that I do have hair.
Yeah,
Yes, I can vouch that I do have a full hair of head of hair. So I married this lovely lady, and then one weekend we found ourselves at a March for Life. I have no idea, I cannot recall who invited us, but we were there and we walked, and I hope you like this because I thought this was so cute. Here are these mothers with their children, and this one obviously pregnant, and they're in a walk for life, and it's just a clever little, cute little thing. Anyway, I have no idea who invited us. We were there, and the next thing I knew was I thought I wandered off into a side room where Dr. Bernard Nathanson was showing the silent stream, but it really wasn't. But the Holy Spirit had grabbed me by the collar and says, go in here, I want you to see this. And I did. And I couldn't believe at the time that this was allowed to happen. I could not believe at the time that no one was charged with murder. I could not believe at the time that no one was charged with cruelty, brutality, torture of humans. Really, that was how naive I was. I couldn't believe this was happening. Could not believe that mothers would do this to their babies. I said that this was not right. I knew that on the spot that this was not right. And that someone had to do something. And little did I know that God was, again, working behind the scenes. I had no idea where God was going to lead this at the time. I was a young married couple at the time, as you know. And I was a subscriber to the Miami Herald at the time. And this is the publisher, David Lawrence. And I particularly chose this because I couldn't find a front page that dealt with the abortion issue, but you can see how biased they are. They would never put a front page of a proper marriage on the front cover, but they would give it gay is okay and all of this nonsense, and all of this just makes me sick. But it was the back. So they had this bias on the pro-abortion side versus the pro-life side. I saw it, it bothered me, and so this bunch little young man decided to call the paper and asked to speak to the publisher, mind you, and says, I want to come and see you. And he said, come on. Right. That's, again, as Jack was saying, step out, get out. Yeah, okay. So he put his arms around me. Turns out he's Catholic, had 5 children. I never told me that he was pro-life, but I figured that he was. He put his arms around me and said to me, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to monitor the newspaper for 30 days, come back and tell me what you found. Well, I kept the clippings, and it was far heavy on the left side compared to the right side, and I showed him. He said to me, he said, what would you like to do? I said, I'd like to do a presentation to the entire editorial board and all the reporters. And he said, we have it. So I was at the time a babe in the woods, a blank slate as far as the pro-life issue is concerned. But God is faithful to put people in your path. He really is. If you step out, He's not going to let you down. He's not going to let you out on that limb. So God put together a young lady who was an RN, brave woman by the name of Libby Johnson. And Libby Johnson started a pro-life presentation. There was a carousel at the time. Not only when life begins, as she knew it, from conception all the way to birth and so on, but she also stacked it with aborted baby pictures.
Good.
And when she was going through the presentation, they're screaming and they're shouting. They said, stop, stop, we can't see this, stop this, stop. And Libby just kept going on and showing. I have no idea how many conversions we had that day, but that's not our business. That's God's business. Libby and I did our job. We showed up. Okay. Concerned that, so when I left there, I didn't feel defeated, but concerned that the general public, again, we're not getting the truth, I said, not today, about this issue and so on and so forth. So, being a young married couple, again, here was this husband that was in the garage on Friday nights painting signs to put outside on the public square. So I painted these signs. These are the little signs, you see the little for sale signs or private property, keep out. And I would on the back side, because they were so white, plain and easy, and we put a very simple message: abortion is murder. And I would buy these by the 50s and the 100s, and I would buy them for cash so they wouldn't trace them back because I was putting them out in the public square. And every Saturday morning I would leave with our Doberman pinscher, Natasha, not for protection because I was not afraid, but just for companionship. And she wouldn't want me to leave her, so here we would head out. Instead of going out on a Saturday morning, a young married couple, to breakfast or brunch or whatever it is, I was posting signs all over Florida. Miami, yeah.
And tell them where you put them and how you put them up.
Yeah, so I took a ladder, I had a ladder, had a truck at the time, took a ladder, put them high so that people wouldn't deface them and stuff, and they wouldn't be able to come down because I put caulking behind, so they were there for months.
And you put them on utility poles.
And utility poles and stuff, and on the highways itself, sometimes where the highway split, but people would see them and stuff. Okay. So my next battle was, and I was not a person that goes out looking for battles. My next battle was, we had moved to Georgia, and we were moving back to Florida because I miss the ocean. I have water on my brain. I got to see water. Yeah, and so we were looking at moving back to Vero Beach because Vero was the frost line at the time. Okay, and as my wife is looking in the paper as I'm driving, and she says, "Oh, look here. Planned Parenthood is moving to Vero and is looking for." So again, I wrote to the editor, and that is so key in writing to the editor. Why is that? It's because it's the second best read section of the newspaper, any newspaper anywhere. Next to the front page, letters to the editors. So I wrote a letter to the editors and saying that if any shopping strip rents to Planned Parenthood, they'll be picketing there all the time. It will be bad for the other merchants. It started a firestorm. They could not rent any space in all of Vero Beach. Okay, and then so they ended up buying their property and converting it, and then in about three years they were shooed out of town because they kept having the picketing there, and they were put persona non grata. Yes. Next battle that is, and I'm not a person that goes looking for battles. So the next battle was I was having lunch one afternoon, and I'm reading that this particular, look here, it says children, right? We know what children are, right? And we have to find what the definition of a child is. But children, that this Children's Service Council in my county, Martin County, was actually funding Planned Parenthood to the tune of $54,000 a year. So we got their statutes, unbeknownst to them what we were doing with it, and we used it against them, and we found out that they were meeting a service to the Guatemalan illegals who were adults. They were not children. And so we fought them. It took 4 years for us to defend them in our county. 4 years. It's a bitter battle. And I'm telling you, when you fight, do not fight nice. They do not know nice. Okay?
So 4 years to defund them.
Yes, 4 years. Once we defunded them, then we moved to the next county north, St. Lucie County. Okay? And it took them 1 year. They did not want the battle that Martin County had. And then after that, we moved south to the Palm Beach County, and it took them a little amount of time, and we defunded. They're still funding them now, but for about $200,000 because the guys down there won't finish the race. They won't finish the race. They need to finish the race. But we defunded them from $2,500 to $2,500,000 a year in funding. Okay, so it can be done, but someone's got to. You know what I'm saying to you? All right. The next battle is in one Sunday. I was looking at our local paper, and one of these, what do they call it again, plastic surgeon ran an almost nude ad. This is not the ad. I didn't want to put any soft porn up here. Ran a nude ad in there. So I scanned the ad and I sent it out to all of the contacts we had and told them to contact this gentleman, Bob Brunges, who was the publisher, and gave them his email address, and they did just that. I spoke with him, and he said to me, well, anyway, so he pulled the ad, said that they would never run an ad like that again. He was surprised that the ad had ran, and that he would see to it. Well, since then, I decided that I would develop a relationship with Bob Brunges, the publisher. And we've been having lunch together, dialoguing together, for the purpose of communicating so we can keep those channels open. At the time, I was still very much involved in the travel industry, still very much involved in the corporate world. And of course, the fact that we're in an epic battle, you know, you have two sides, and then of course you've got these sides here, and what is really particular, this is the face of our enemy, which is so sad. They are so angry, they're so upset, and it's a poor soul. They really are, if they only knew where they'd find peace. While this is our side, you know, I pretty like this guy's t-shirt that says superlative conspiracy, and I have no idea what that means. And I would have no desire ever, if I was single, to ever have anything to do. These girls would scare me. I would run. I would run very fast. But seriously, as you notice here, as you know, there's 1 million deaths each year. That's what it's brought down to. And so I want to break the numbers down because there are statistics, okay, that go over ahead. So you break this down over 365 days, that's 2740 deaths a day. Today, yesterday, tomorrow, and so on and so forth. Which means that there are 91 classrooms that we're killing every day. It's just incredible. So, and so I've been working on this statistic, and here's Stalin, who kills so many millions. I think it was 70 million he's responsible for, or no, 40 million of his own people. That a death is a tragedy. The death of 1 million is a statistic. So here we come back with that statistic. And so I'm trying to put this in perspective so people can look at it and see. And so, you know, so we're looking at a 9/11 a day, every day, yesterday, today, tomorrow, on and on and on, because there were 2,900 plus. I think 79 is the actual last number. So a 9/11 a day. We're looking at 10 of these wide-body planes going down with 274 passengers on each flight. Every day. No breaking news, no flags lowered, nothing. We have said 10 of these airplanes. Can you imagine if a private airplane goes down here, you hear it's on the news. 5 or 6 people get killed, what have you. We have 10 of these going down every day. The equivalent of 10 of these. Nobody utters a word. So we have so far 60 million people, babies that we have, little boys, little girls that we've killed. You know, we have no idea who we're killing, all right? We have no priests. We don't know how many bishops, how many cardinals. We don't know how many scientists. We have no idea how many saints we have killed. Serious. You mean to tell me that in 60 million we don't have a few saints littered in our air? I mean, seriously. So, and then the tragedy is when you look at this, I see, and I said, why isn't the media, if we can get this information, if this information is available to us, why isn't the media using this information? You know what I'm saying to you? They don't want to. And so when you look, there's nothing. You see this red spot? These are the abortion deaths. You see this little spot here between the different colors? These are all the wars that we've sent our young men and our young women to fight and die. Look at this. There's nothing like this anywhere. Okay. And of course, when you look at a breakdown in terms of religion, and there are a number of different statistics. Protestants are 42%, Catholics are 27%. What is second largest? Shame on us. Shame on us. Shame on us. So when you add up the stats of the Protestants, the Catholic, and the other religious, we're looking at 76%. 3 out of every 4 abortion is by someone who claims to believe. Okay, and this breaks it down further, and you can get this from Guttmeyer, you get it also from the CDC, and this one was from Lifeway, but it actually breaks down Catholics, Protestant. But the reason why Protestants is because they're figured into these 2 figures here, Jewish and so on and so forth. It's pathetic, pathetic. Okay. Globally, you can see the global abortion ratio, 42 million a year. And fortunately, we're no longer funding this.
Amen.
Thank you, Trump. Thank you,
Yes,
Trump.
yeah. So, and see, that's why it's important for us to vote and for us to share that information with others. Okay. And as you know, because you're on the battlefront, 99.9% really don't care. 99.9% don't care. Doesn't matter where you are. 9% don't care. Catholics that go to church every Sunday, they just don't care. Okay, so how did we get here? Dr. Bernard Nathanson said that if every Catholic bishop and every Catholic priest had stood up, he didn't talk about Mormon or Anglicans or Protestants or anyone else. He said if every Catholic bishop and every Catholic priest had stood up, Roe v. Wade would never have passed. Wouldn't have passed. Ever. 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 Father Frank Pavone, and I'm sure he's no stranger to you, it says the abortion mill is open courtesy of your parish. Isn't that so true? Look at these churches here. Look at all of these churches. Look at all of these churches. Look at these churches here. Look at the abortion mill. I witnessed an abortion mill in Little Haiti in Miami. At the corner of this intersection, there was an abortion mill at one corner where we witnessed. On the other 3 corners were churches. And the churches were open on the Saturday mornings when we were witnessing. And we reached out to the churches to join us. And nothing.
Were they Catholic churches?
No, they were not. So sad.
It made any difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do we begin? All right, I sort of say pray. We have to pray. Jesus prayed before he did anything. He prayed before he does anything. Okay? And I've learned from him, even if I'm working on some plumbing, or I'm working on something, or if I'm mowing the lawn at the house, I pray before I do. So Jesus said that. So we need to pray. We need to pray in repentance, reparation, conviction, conversion, and the closure of the abortion mills. We got to pray. These prayers do not go unanswered. However, prayer is not the answer, the only answer. Faith without works is dead. Dead, 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 dead. If your house was burning down, would you get on your knees or pray, or would you jump into action? Would you call 911? Would you, if your neighbor's house was burning, would you run next door and try to see if anyone is in there, and help? When you call the fire station, do you think that the fire marshal says to the firefighter, hey guys, there's a house on fire, let's pray? No! They get busy. So, if someone is drowning, we say, oh, I'm so sorry you're drowning. I'm going to pray for you right now. No, you throw them a life raft. And so, likewise, if you're looking for a job, you need funds. Do you get on your knees? Of course you do, because you want to open the transmission. But then you go out and look for a job. Send your resumes out and so on and so forth. Same thing with us here. Thirsty? What are you going to do? Just pray your thirst away? I can't do that. And then, George W. Bush, when after 9/11, he didn't say to the military commander, hey guys, we had a real problem here. They ran airplanes into our buildings and the Pentagon, out there in Pennsylvania. Hey, why don't we all get and just have a pray? Kumbaya, kumbaya. No. What he did, he got our military together, went over there and to exact justice. So, the point I'm trying to say is, we cannot pray ISIS away. We cannot pray abortion away. Okay? Faith without works is dead. The power of prayer is mixed with demonstration of faith. Okay. I ran into a really interesting priest, Father Malone. Father Malone says that prayer should open our hearts, our ears, our eyes to move, to do, to be hands and feet, to go out where we're needed. Father Malone also says, if all we do is prayer, it is useless. It gives God lip service. Imagine that. And imagine if we, instead of killing babies, little boys, little girls every day, we were killing puppies. Can you imagine? You know, PETA has come under a lot of fire because they were disposing of dogs and cats in their charge, and people got really upset about nothing to the extent of what we're doing on a daily basis. But can you imagine? Okay, so we have our marching orders. We have a mandate, you know. Pope Paul VI, St. John Paul II, Benedict XVI, Francis I says, there's no greater work to be done. None. I mean, they've told us this. And so you come back to, why aren't the rest of our Catholics with us? You know, if this is what our popes have said, you know, or marching, why is? Okay, but they will have to answer, huh? They will have to answer. And I found this rather particularly interesting. He says, I can have an abortion, it's my body. And the guy says, well, false. It's the baby's body. If it were your body, you'd be the one that dies. Really interesting. And so these are some of the things that we need to keep. Yeah. I fully believe in choice. Everyone should have a control over their body. The problem is women don't abort themselves. They abort someone else, which is so true. And so we need to keep that focus. All right. We're God's boots in this epic battle. The enemy, know your enemy and know yourself, and so on and so forth. We are to be a beacon in the sea of chaos. No matter what, you know, God is going to be our shield. God forbid something should happen to us while we're on the sidewalk. Actually, that's what I was telling Jack earlier this morning. That's where I wanted to die, on the sidewalk. Do I want to be a hero? No, because I want my death to cause a commotion. The girls in there who are waiting for an abortion, the police are out there, the paramedics are out there. It's causing a commotion. Some guy either collapsed of a heart attack or was run over by a car accidentally or whatever it was. It caused a commotion, and somebody would have the chance, the time to say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to go through with this for whatever reason. God could use that time. You know what I'm saying to you? But we are to bring up and to be a commotion. And so we are to be the light of Christ. And the question is your light bright as Christ is? Are you reflecting Christ? You know, or is it dull and out? So my brothers and sisters, so I particularly wanted this because I look at this dear soul. See, this is where we are to go in the public square. This is where it would. And we should not count the cost or count the result. That's not my business. It's God's business. My business is being there, showing up. But look at this dear soul up against these two pro-abortionists, and look at the smirk on this gal's face. And it tells me something. It tells me that God is working on our heart. It just tells me that. But then, you know, so we leave that to God. But look at this dear lady. She's holding a crucifix. Just look at this. And has a rosary around her neck. But she's out there standing her ground in this epic battle. Has no rules, as you know, has no rules whatsoever. And the sad reality is that these tiny little defenseless babies are handed over by the very ones that are charged with nurturing them. How sad. How truly, truly sad. Okay. But as I mentioned before, we have a biblical mandate to do something about it. Something! I say something is better than nothing. Anything is better than nothing, but something. And really interesting, the bottom quote, John 15:16, you did not choose me. We didn't choose God. God chose us. I chose you and appointed us, that you might go out and bear fruit that will last. And so, my brothers and sisters, as Jack was sharing some good news, the good news is, as you know, but the media is not reporting that, we're actually winning the battle. We are winning the battle day after day. You see, because I am convinced in my heart that God will not allow us to labor in vain. That's not the God that we serve. God will not allow us to go out there for half an hour, for an hour, or for whatever it is. for nothing, for naught. That's not the God we serve, okay? And so we're having more children than they're having, because they're aborting their kids, okay? We have abortionists that are quitting. We have abortionists that are quitting. We have mills that are closing down. In fact, I'll get to some of the mills, but I want to share with you some key conversion stories. You know who these three people are? Oh, it's Sandra Cano, Norma Mccorvey, she just passed away, and Dr. Bernard Nathanson. These are the three kingpins. These are the people that actually that brought Roe v. Wade to us. By the way, Norma never had an abortion. Norma was never raped. Nor was Sandra Cano. She never had an abortion, never was raped. Two similar stories. Norma Mccorvey was living a kind of a, you would say, a loose life. She had three kids that she had adopted out. And she got herself pregnant again. She was not raped. And she was wanted an attorney. She was doing the right thing to have an adoption, have an adoption attorney. Instead, they got her with Sarah Waddington, and who wanted, because she was from Texas, to reverse the Texas law. And so they used her for the Roe v. Wade. It was not her doing. So was Sandra Cano in Georgia. Okay, never had an abortion, was not raped, had the child. Okay, well, you know about Dr. Bernard Nathanson. He was an atheist, he was a Jew, he was the granddaddy of the abortion industry. I would not like to have that legacy. Anyway, so Norma Mccorvey, after this big famous lawsuit, a Supreme Court decision, got sucked into the abortion industry. And thought that it was the right thing to do, because you see so many of these young women in this place, that think that they're serving women, they're doing women a service, and they're so misinformed, sadly. But what's really interesting is the person that converted. You may hear different stories. The person that actually was responsible for the conversion of Norma Mccorvey, this young 7-year-old little girl. Look how sweet she looks. But Emily and her sister Chelsea and her mom would be on the sidewalk with Pastor Flip Benham. Are you familiar with the Benham brothers on HGTV? Well, that's his dad. I had the privilege of picketing with him up in Albany, New York, carrying a huge sign together in a neighborhood of an abortionist. And he almost got arrested. We almost got arrested together. But anyway, they were witnessing outside the abortion mill where Norma Mccorvey was working. As I told you, she got sucked in. And week after week, Emily was just reaching out to Norma and telling her how Jesus loves her. And finally, Norma accepted Emily's invitation. A young girl, a 7-year-old girl. Maybe didn't even know the right words to say, but how God used her. She went to church with Emily's family, and she found Christ, got out of the industry, and the rest of her life fought to undo the law that had her name. But of course the media would never allow that and stuff. Okay? It is such a sad commentary on our time. This is Dr. Anthony Leventano. Abortionists are quitting, abortionists are dying, abortionists are retiring, and most doctors are not going into the abortion industry, so they're really hurting, and that's why they're pushing so much the medical abortion, your 486. Okay, now the good news is abortion mills are closing, big time. In 1991, there were 2,176 mills. Last year, there were 515 surgical, one is too many, huh?
Yeah, really.
515 surgical abortion mills and 215 chemical abortion mills for a total of 730. That's a drop of 76% of abortion mills have closed. Yeah. Pregnancy centers, in the meantime, outnumbered. There are 4,000 pregnancy centers to 730 abortion mills. It's a 5-to-1 ratio. So, my dear brothers and sisters, if you were not afraid, what it is you think that you could do? Imagine that, yeah. And so you talk about John Paul, St. John Paul II, his first words, and one of the words that he would always have, be not afraid, be not afraid, be not afraid. Be not afraid. In fact, I believe it is mentioned in the Bible 365 times. Be not afraid. Be not afraid. If God is our Father, is our Commander-in-Chief, what have we got to fear? In fact, there's a Bible passage that says, greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. Greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world. Okay?
And if God be for you,
Who could be against you? Right? Right. So, my brothers and sisters, 90% of success is just showing up. And show up. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about what you're going to say, who you're going to encounter. Just show up and say, Lord, use me. Use me. And listen, read this thing with me. Your body doesn't care if your mind isn't motivated. Really and truly. You know, the results are the same with or without it. So just show up. Disregard what your mind is saying. And also, I just want to get to one point here. I'm going too far back. Okay. But all along, the devil is whispering in your ear saying, you're doing enough. Right? So, all right. So, I have a few suggestions. Beginning today and throughout this Lenten season and beyond, I'm saying, let us examine how much time we spend in this epic battle. I'm not saying you're not. I'm just saying let's examine. Okay? Okay. We have 168 hours a week. Let's see how many hours you spend on active duty. Active duty. Active duty. Okay. Not praying in the chapel. You know, I do that. I'm a daily communicant. So I'm not belittling prayers. Not belittling prayers. By any means. Okay, so how much day you pay each day, each week? How many hours you waste before the boob tube? I can tell you here, my wife and I, we do not have any cable. We do not have any satellite dish. Nothing. 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 Are we pure? I'm not saying that we are pure, but you know what? It's garbage. It's pure trash.
Amen.
There's nothing redeemable. I do not come across from that learning anything. I'm not a better person. I haven't grown. I'm suggesting, I'm proposing 1 hour. Can you do 1 hour more a week? Do you know that? 1 hour is just 4% of your day. Can we give God just 4%? I mean, just 4% of your day? Interesting.
Sure.
All right, so just 1 hour, get busy. And then we need to consider this seriously. Luke 12:48, very serious consideration. Much is required for those who much is given. It always goes on and says, much will be demanded of those who are given much. Huh? So, and this is a Bible passage that I found rather interesting, and that is, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these. Who said that? Jesus. Jesus. You hear what he said? I noticed Jesus was always saying, in my Father's house there are many mansions. I've gone to prepare a place for you. If it wasn't so, I would not have told you so. On and on, right? He said, so I just want you to believe what he's saying. This is Jesus. I should have put up there. Jesus said, very truly I tell you. So prove me right. It's going to be John 14:12. Remember that. Because a lot of my Protestant friends I've shared this with, they were not aware of that. John 14:12. The works that Jesus did, we are going to be able to do more. That's the power we have. Imagine that. So, the question is, are we leaving a legacy? You and I, are we leaving a legacy when we're gone tomorrow? Okay. And that we lose 100%. Consider this, 100% of the battles we don't engage. If there's a pawn shop opening down the road and you get so upset, oh no, this neighbor's going to go down, got all kind of, creepy people moving in, are you going to just allow it just to open up? No, you're going to organize. You need to go there and.
And that's a quote from the famous hockey player.
Wayne Gretzky. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You see a shot, I could have taken it, I could have, would have, should have. You know what I'm saying to you? No! Jump into action. Jump into action. You don't want to be on this side. These are the losers. I should really shift this around. Cowards never start. The weak never finish. Winners never quit. Right?
Jack, what did the hockey player say?
Wayne Gretzky. It says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Okay. I'm just moving on in the interest of time. Okay. this is an interesting piece I want to share with you, and that is Cardinal O'Connor had a really very close relationship with Saint Teresa, Mother Teresa then, because she had a number of homes up in New York, you know, home for the aged, the homeless, and so on and so forth. Well, Cardinal O'Connor, when he was appointed cardinal, and he was in the procession of all the cardinals that had just been appointed, he looked up and he saw Mother Teresa at the Vatican, at St. Peter's. And he, for some reason, he broke the procession and went straight to Mother Teresa, and he bowed in front of her. And she put her hands on his head and says, "Give God permission. Give God permission to work through you." Imagine that. Give God, I'm going to give God of the universe, God of heaven and earth, God who created and sustains everything, I'm going to give him, or I'm going to deny him permission. Imagine that. Wow. And so you and I have the power to limit God. You and I have the power to put God in a box. Okay, God, I'm doing enough. God, I'm busy. Oh, you're going to shout, "Sit here, I'm busy." Or whatever it is, but we have the power to do that. Sometimes God pushes us to our limits. It's because he has greater faith in us than we have in ourselves. So true. So true. And when you set out to do this thing, this is what I was looking to start with. The devil is whispering in your ear, "You're doing enough. Let somebody else do it." Right? Okay. Father Karapi said, all the time that Jesus on the cross, there was the second to last words that he said, "It is finished." He had spent every drop of blood. He had spent every drop of water. He had nothing else to give. He said it was finished. The last word was, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." Right? He gave everything. So why shouldn't we give everything? Okay. Father Karapi says that every sin affects the community in which it is committed. For instance, imagine if you were in a really powerful, strong parish. You know, it would just filter out into the community. This would be such a blessed community. I'm not saying it isn't, I'm just saying if you had. So by the same way, if you have a really sinful, you have people that are committing sin in this area, it affects this community. Okay? So Father Karapi says every sin affects the community. Father Wayne Menezes says that every sin has 4 consequences. There are 4 consequences to every sin. Okay? Whether venial or mortal. They're personal, they affect the individual person. They're social, they affect his or her relationship with others. Okay? They're ecclesial, they affect the body of Christ, the church. And they're cosmic because they affect creation and the cosmos. Do you know which country has the most natural disasters on the planet? The United States. Floods, volcanoes, tornadoes. Maybe not so many volcanoes. Hurricanes. The United States has the most disasters of any country in the world. Father Larry Richards says that every sin is communal. Again, these are different priests saying the same thing. And that's why the sin of abortion, what's my point? The sin of abortion is affecting every one of us. It's a wonder we still have food to eat. I'm surprised that we're not suffering from a severe drought across the length and breadth of this country, other than for the mercy of God. Father Larry Richards says everything is communal, and so I say it's original sin. I have a friend that cannot identify with the fact that we are still suffering from original sin. Every one of us. Every one of us. And so the harvest is rich as someone said earlier, but the workers are few. There's a priest that comes over from Ireland every summer to relieve our pastor. And it doesn't matter what feast day he's celebrating. It doesn't matter what any time of the year he's celebrating, whether it be Advent, whether it be Lent, whatever it is, he's celebrating. During the consecration, he says the harvest is rich, workers are few. Every Mass he celebrates, and you know that, we come back to the same point, I believe only 1/10 of 1% of our Catholic brothers and sisters, or Protestant brothers and sisters, are engaged in this battle. It's travesty. Father Leo Clifford says that for every sin of commission, there's 100 sins of omission. For every sin of commission, there are 100 sins of omission. Okay. Jack stepped out and he corrected me earlier. So I have to be very careful how I pronounce his name. There are two ways you can pronounce it. So Hope has, this was really interesting. Hope has two beautiful daughters. Their names are Anger and Courage. Anger at the way things are, and courage to see that they do not remain the same. And he says that it's St. Augustine, not St. Augustine, as we say down in Florida. St. Augustine, all right? While on the opposite side, which is really interesting, on the opposite side of hope is cynicism, and cynicism has two daughters. Their names are Indifference and Cowardice. And is that not how the rest that are not with us are? They're so indifferent, it doesn't matter. Oh, abortion is a sin. Boing, it falls off. Boing, boing, boing. Nothing. Nothing beyond. It is so sad. And so where do we stand in this thing? Are we with courage, anger and courage to do something, or are we just indifference and cowardice? It's shame. But we are going to be accountable. And guess what? My pastor is not accountable for me. I am for me. And that's the key. There was a Harvard professor that wanted to prove God does not exist. It's a true story. And he died and had an out-of-body experience, had an accident, had an out-of-body.
This is a true story, right?
Yeah, true story. True story. Went to heaven. I went through the usual out-of-body experiences. And he came and then he was shown his book of life. Notice what is and to his shock, he realized that his book of life, his journal, had been written day by day in his own handwriting. You and I are writing our book of life. Today, yesterday, tomorrow, in our own handwriting. We will recognize our handwriting. I know, my crab-toed handwriting is horrible, right? But we are writing our own handwriting, our life story, our book of life. But don't take my word for it. I want to share this with you. The Most Reverend Fabian Bruskowitz, who is the Bishop of the Diocese of Lincoln from 1992 to 2012, stated, and I quote, "A wise man once said that when we appear before the judgment seat of Christ," by the way, that happens to us if we die now. If I die right now, I face God immediately. That's my individual judgment. It's not Judgment Day, but that's mine. Okay. When we die, we appear before the judgment seat of Christ. He will look at us very carefully and ask, "Where are your scars?" If we respond that we have no scars, he will then reproach us and say, "Was there nothing worth fighting for?" I believe, my dear friends, and I'm continuing quoting Bishop Bruskowitz, the case of life is worth fighting for. The cause of Christ is worth fighting for. Let us see to our duties with resolution, determination, and defiance. Defiance. We must defy the authorities. We must defy the culture. We must defy them because we are standing up for what's right. Life. Go forward so at the end we can show Christ our scars. Okay. So action changes things. Okay? And just a suggestion I wanted to share with you, that we resolved that to do more, not less. And that we would add one, not saying that you're not doing already, but I'm saying add one additional hour each week, if you can. If not 30 minutes, if not 20 minutes, whatever it is. But every addition would be. Sign up for Defend Life if you're not already. Subscribe. And then also for Christian Action News, for the monthly updates in this epic battle. You've got to be equipped. You have to be informed on all the stuff that's happening out there. Boycott companies, and that's where you find which are the companies to boycott. We list them every month. I update it personally every month in the Christian Action News. write letters to the editors. You see the results I got from contacting. You know, guess what? They hunger and thirst like you and I hunger and thirst. They need to sleep at night. They need to eat, right? They're just like you and I, and they're reachable, as I was able to reach these guys. You know, carry bumper stickers. I have in my car bumper stickers, and I'll make these available to you, free of cost. A number of different bumper stickers. Put a bumper sticker. I counted one time. In a given year, one bumper sticker on your car will reach 18,000 people. Imagine. So you have no idea how much people impact. Another thing I have is mini stickers. We provide these. We'll provide these for you. Everywhere I go, I have. Oh, good for you. In the library, whatever you do, I put them on the plane seat in front of me. You know, the fold-down thing. You never know who follows you. You know, a gal might be flying to somewhere for a late-term abortion, looking for a sign. Innately, she knows it's wrong. She knows it's wrong. Okay. I go to the gas pump. People know see my footprints everywhere I go. No, I do. I am due to go back to the beach and put these on the signs at the beach. And not the front side. I don't do face stuff on the back side because people do walk down. I go in the women's room, put them on the trash container. You know, early in the morning when nobody is there. Somebody reads them. You know what I'm saying to you? So get organized and do that. We'll provide those for you. I believe that in this epic battle, we have to be more creative. We have to be more effective. We must know our target. We know what our target is, 15 to 35. We know what. So you know, when I'm saying to be more creative, more effective, where are these spending their time? We know where they are. Social media. So we're gearing up now to get on with the social media as far as Facebook and Google, a couple of organizations out there. So Einstein said, if you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, that's the height of insanity. Einstein, okay? So, you know, the game is changing. We got to move up with the change. And so how do you communicate? What are the most gains? What gets the most best results? And you have a great skipper here in Jack.
Yes.
Right? Support his efforts, work with him, and stuff. Okay. It brings me now to the work that we are also doing in Florida. With the Billboard project. And again, I tell you, it is unbelievable the work, the amount of stuff. It's not me, just an instrument. It's God who does all of this. So we have 250 billboards that stretch from Miami all the way to Pensacola. We have not 20 right now. We have 20 buses running, not 30. We have 20 buses running right now with exterior signs on the outside. Next contract, which we already signed, it will be 30 because right now they were sold out. They couldn't give us 30 buses. Why 30? Because they have 3 garages in Miami where the buses come out of. And so 10 buses, we have 10 out of each garage, so that they'll split and they'll just go around. We have 550 interior bus ads, 550, imagine that. We don't know how much people we know how many people we're impacting on a day, okay? We don't know what hearts are being turned, but that's God's business. We have 100 bus benches, we have 100 taxi tops, and we have 25 electronic billboards, and 4 million impressions a day. 4 million.
Explain what an electronic billboard is.
You know what these electronic billboards are?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's bright lights and then they keep rotating.
Mm-hmm.
You just have them down in Miami, or is it all throughout the southern part of the state?
Throughout the state. Yeah. All on major highways. Again, here's this thing, Finn. Before I formed it, I knew you. We had one of those billboards. So there's one of the billboards we have. Here's the most effective billboard we have is 18 days. 18 days. You know why? Because people are looking for something tangible to relate to. And so when they found that there's a heartbeat, they knew that it's alive. And so that's one of our another one, born to be free to be born. Pregnant and alone, you have options. Pregnant and alone, we're here for you. We love you, Mom. Please let us live.
That's good.
unplanned pregnancy, and again, so we have two different approaches. One to the women, that it does not show the baby because the baby is the enemy. The baby is really the enemy. The baby is an intruder. The baby is a parasite. She wants to get rid of this thing, you know. So we just the women alone. If you notice, when we here's again just a woman alone. It's a totally different toll-free number. Again, just keeping. Oh, back. And so we put this one out because specifically for all the Christians, the 76% of abortions that are committed by Christians. Save the baby human, these are for the humanitarians, you know. And some really love it. So if it speaks to them, so more power to them. One life can change the world. Of course, how true that is. You know, Dr. Brian Close from Human Life International says so far, based on the different people that will go into different professions, based on the population count, we've killed over 7,000 priests so far. Imagine that. Wow. Yes. Choose love, choose life, choose me. The baby in your womb is not your body. We love you, Mom. And so the reason I put this here is that I wanted to see this. We get the opportunity to choose the locations of so here's the billboard, the same billboard here. Here's the billboard here at an intersection. And so here's the light, and then but here's the so this billboard here is being seen by people waiting at the traffic light on either direction. And again, so again, we don't know who it is, but I can tell you stories. Here's another one, a street view. 1 in 4 pregnancies killed by choice. Thanks, Mom, for the gift of life. Smile, your mom chose life. Every abortion has 2 victims. And here's a really interesting one that we did. Who's missing in your family? What if you were never born? Every 22 seconds. Again, it's educational, huh? And then we have a series of, this is a really interesting one, but we didn't use it because we were told, of course, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Einstein, and George Washington. And we were told that millennials would not even know to recognize anyone here. Not even George Washington. Yeah, it's so sad. And so we figured, you know, we're called to be stewards, so we figured, why put this out there? I mean, it would appeal to you and I, you know what I'm saying, but to the millennial wouldn't mean a thing. Sad to say. So we do bilingual ads down in Miami. We use a gal with a happy face, and we in this particular bilingual ad because we didn't want it to be such a downcast. This was one of the ones we used also. This was one of the original ones. You see, the really. So now these are the transit. We have 42 of these. We have 2 of these in each of the train stations at Metro Rail. This is Government Center.
And this is Miami.
Miami. This is Okeechobee. Again, it's you can see it's a bilingual ad. This one is Palmetto. This one is South Miami. It says Dataland South. These are the interior ads on the buses. You can see the interior ones. This is a wrap. These are the bus ads. What I like about these is look at these, the headers.
Yeah.
High above traffic.
Beautiful.
You know?
How much do they cost?
Interesting question.
And we'll get into that in the question and answer period.
Yeah. Okay, so here's again, Miami-Dade Transit on the side of the bus. Here's another one. I mean, all over. You see, this is a different one. Yeah. Another one. This one is in Gainesville. Gainesville, University of Gainesville.
University of Florida.
Yeah. So here are the taxi cabs that we have, right in front of Barnes & Noble, one in Sears. Okay. So here's the question. Remember the question I asked you about tragedy of being a saint. Has anyone had pondered, remember, again, the greatest tragedy? Greatest. Not one of the greatest. The greatest tragedy is not to be a saint. Does anyone know who said that? No? Okay. It was a Frenchman by the name of Charles Piguet. Right? And which was really interesting because he was a French poet, essayist, and editor. He had 2 main philosophies, which were socialism, interesting, and nationalism. And he would make a statement as this. I thought it was going to be St. Thomas Aquinas or St. Listen to this, Jack. Augustine. For you. Saint Augustine. Right? I thought it would be some big doctor of the church. No. So anyway, what was really interesting is this guy, and so he became a Catholic, a non-practicing. That I don't have an understanding of. What do we mean by a non-Catholic? So, before I close, I just wanted to... Yeah. It's a
C&E.
Yeah. So, St. Thomas More was also known as Sir Thomas More, okay? And he was imprisoned, and he was arrested in prison for refusing to acknowledge Henry VIII as supreme head of the Church of England, and the annulment of his marriage to Catherine of Aragon. More was sentenced to be hanged until half dead, then disemboweled and burned. But a few days later, King Henry VIII commuted More's sentence to death of beheading. Kneeling, he repeatedly prayed the Miserere with much devotion. And rising up, the executioner asked for his forgiveness. Imagine that. The executioner asked him for his forgiveness. He wasn't a saint then, he was just Sir Thomas More. But he knew that he was in the presence of a holy man. St. Thomas More kissed the executioner, the very one that would behead him, and said, "Pick up thy spirits, man, and be not afraid to do thine office." When asked if he had any final words, St. Thomas More said, "I have served my God and the King. I regret I have not served God more." May that never be said of us. I regret that I have never served my God more. He suffered much with cheerfulness. His head was taken off with one blow and was placed upon London Bridge for months. Imagine. And the last story I want to share with you is President Ronald Reagan shared at the annual National Prayer Breakfast on February the 2nd, 1984, on how Christianity influenced Rome. What's really interesting in this is that Christianity didn't change Rome by being in the church or in the chapel, but being taken outside of the church. In the 4th century, and this is Reagan quoting, in the 4th century, a monk by the name of Telemachus heard God telling him to go to Rome. He followed the crowd into the Colosseum and saw the gladiators. He realized that they were going to fight to the death. He cried out, "In the name of Christ, stop." He made his way through the crowd and climbed the wall into the arena. As he was pleading with the gladiators, one of them plunged his sword into his body. His last words, "In the name of Christ, stop." Suddenly, the gladiators stood looking at this tiny form in a dead pool of blood. Dead in a pool of blood. In dead silence, one by one, they all left. Reagan continued. That was the last battle in the Colosseum. One tiny voice. In the name of Christ, stop. I thank you for allowing me to come here and share with you today. And I would say, in the name of Christ, keep on keeping on. Huh?